Rockford's home for classic rock, 96.7 The Eagle. Good morning, I'm Double T. Special guest joining me probably has the world's most famous cowbell, Albert Bouchard, founding member and drummer of Blue Oyster Cult. Albert, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Terry. Thank you.
Did you ever think a cowbell would become so famous?
Absolutely not.
You know, we've all seen the Saturday Night Live skit, which is great. But did you know that was happening, or is it something you just saw like the rest of us?
I found out about it the day after the broadcast. So, no, I did not know anything about it.
Now, of course, we've seen a skit, like I've said, but what's the real story behind the cowbell and Don't Fear the Reaper?
Well, you know, it's odd. The skit is sort of very similar to what actually happened, but, you know, the roles were reversed a little bit. We had done the track, and one of the producers, there was three. There was Sandy Perlman, there was who was our manager also. There was Murray Krugman, who was our representative at Columbia Records, and there was also David Lucas, who was the guy who produced the demos that got us signed to Columbia. So he had seen us at a party and asked us to come into his studio and make some demos. And one of the songs we cut was Last Days of May, which ended up on the first record. The same, you know, the demo ended up on the record because it was so good. But that really got us signed to Columbia Records. They heard that, said, yeah, we have to have this band. So anyway, David was there after being absent for the previous two records, or three records actually before that. And he, one night after we had been recording, he had Randy Brecker come in and play a flugelhorn solo on Don't Fear the Reaper. And we came in the next day and we're like, no, we don't want that. Take it off, please. Erase it. So they erased, the wonderful Randy Brecker's horn part, and we had an extra track. I said, hey, you know what? I'd like to play a triangle on the bridge section, and the part where Randy had his solo. I want to put a triangle part underneath Don's lead guitar. And so David said, okay, but you know what? I would really like you to play a cowbell on the song. I said, well, what do you want? Like a clave, like Latin thing? You know, because I know David and I were both really into Latin music, you know, like one of these dan, 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 you know, like that. And he goes, no, I want you to play just quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, really? Just quarter notes? That's it? You want me to do that? He goes, yeah, you do it. You're out there in the studio. You got your triangle. Do the cowbell. So I said, okay. And I played it, you know, I said, let's just try it out, you know. So I played through the first verse, and I said, stop, I want to hear it, you know. And I said, what do you guys think? And David's like, that's great. That's just what I wanted. And the other guys, Joe and Donald, are like, I don't know. and I said, and David says, "Oh, you know what? It's just too loud. Wrap some tape around it. It has a little too much sustain. Maybe that's the problem." So I play it again, same part, same track. And after the first verse, I stop and I say, "Okay, I want to hear that again. Let's see what that sounds like." So we listen to it. And David's like, oh, that's even better. And I'm like, nah, it's still, how about if I take a timpani mallet and I play it with that? He says, oh, yeah, give it a try, you know. So I do the same thing, first verse, timpani mallet, you know, and now the cowbell doesn't sound anything like a cowbell. It sounds like a woodblock, like that kind of sound. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. And everybody's like, yeah, that's it. So, you know, that's how it got on there. Then when we were mixing, I was like, can you turn that cowbell down? It's a bit distracting. and so I kept making Shelley Yakis, the mixing guy, him to turn it down. So finally he says, listen, if I turn it down anymore, you're not going to be able to hear it at all. I said, okay, that's good. That's good. It's just like that. You can just barely hear it. So when I heard that they had done this skit, I could not believe that Will Ferrell could even hear the cowbell, much less know that it was actually a cowbell, and make it into this whole thing. It was hysterically funny. I loved it. The first time I saw it, I loved it.
It's awesome. And, it's amazing, though, that a little part like that could become a big part of this song. And the amount of time, I think it kind of tells people about the recording process, that you guys really dig in deep when you're putting out music.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, with that song, we were not taking any chances because I knew, and everybody knew. We knew it was a hit. We knew, just because... Donald had made a demo, and when I played it for people, they were like, wow, that's amazing. That guitar riff, the vocal, the story, everything was just perfect. So we knew, we never got that kind of, especially from the few female fans that we had at that point, So you'd look out and see a sea of white guys. That was it.
I'm talking to Albert Bouchard, founding member and drummer of Blue Oyster Cult. Now has his own projects going on, and let's talk about this latest thing you got coming out.
Well, so now this is a reimagining, if you will, and that's in the title of the album that was a Blue Oyster Cult album in 1988 called Imaginos. And Imaginos started out. I started recording it in 1982, or working on it in 82. I think we actually laid the tracks down in 83. But I started working on it in 1982, right after I left Blue Oyster Cult. And, I had actually been working on it since 1972. And I always, I always thought it should be a Blue Oyster Cult record. And I was like, we need a concept record, or a rock opera like Tommy or something to really establish us as more than just, a great live band or a band that has some hits, and especially after the Reaper, I was like, okay, we don't have to worry about a hit. We got a hit now. Let's do this Imaginos thing. And the band was not, they were really like, no, we need another hit. We have to have another hit, and so that was kind of the focus. After Reaper, it was kind of, people always say that a hit record changes everything, and you see a lot of bands that will be together for like 20 years, and then they finally get their hit, and they break up.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. So, and I understand. It's because once that happens, then your thinking changes. And my thinking was, okay, we got that. Now we can go on and be as crazy as we want. We don't have to have hits, And they're like, yes, we do. We can't be a one-hit wonder, And we did stay together for a bunch of years after that. But I think that people ask me, did I leave the band because they wouldn't do Imaginos? And I have to say, no, that was not. By then I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just do it myself. And Sandy Perlman was thinking the same thing. Maybe we'll do it as a duo, me and Sandy, and he can get to be the singer that he never got to be, So, because he had tried out, before we got Eric Bloom as a singer, Sandy tried out as a singer.
Okay.
And we didn't think his voice was too light. It was very high and sort of nervous, and also his rhythm wasn't good, I guess we could have tried to improve that, but, it was too great a lift. Eric Bloom came along and just nailed all the songs. So we're like, okay, yep, you can sing. You can be in the band. Yeah. So that's
it's strange too, because when I think of Blue Oyster Cult, I think a concept record would have been the perfect idea for what you guys were doing at the time, and it's kind of strange that that's not the direction the band wanted to go.
No, but the irony is that so I recorded this solo record, and then we got all kinds of flack from the record company. First, it was we don't think that. The very first thing was there's no single, and I was like, so You know, is that the most important thing? It's got to have a single, you know? And they were like, yeah. And so I said, well, astronomy, that can be the single, you know? So, which it ended up being the single. But then it was, we don't think your vocals are good enough. So I said, okay. So I hired this guy, Joe Sarasano, to sing all the songs. And he just, you know, he became, after this experience, he became the most in-demand jingle singer in New York, probably for a decade. You know, he was singing every beer commercial, you name it, he sang it. And he was a phenomenal singer, still is a phenomenal singer. And they're like, I don't know, we just don't think that we can sell it. You know, Albert Bouchard is just not a catchy enough name. So they just came up with excuses. So finally, Sandy talked Blue Oyster Cult into putting it out as a Blue Oyster Cult record, and they would overdub their vocals, and on, you know, they would erase some of Joey Sarasano's and some of my vocals, and I would do their vocals instead, so it sounded more like a Blue Oyster Cult record. And so it ended up coming out as a Blue Oyster Cult record, ironically. So, you know, it was kind of a strange thing. You know, I think it might have been better if we'd just done it all together as a record. But, you know, by then, you know, I wasn't in the band anymore, and there was some hard feelings, and it's taken quite a while to get back to normal, which I believe we are now. You know, I mean, they asked me to make a cameo on a new record, which I was happy to do, and then they asked me to be in the video with them, which was even better because we got to spend, you know, about 4 or 5 hours, about 6 hours together. So that was really fun, you know, just hanging out, and telling stories. You know, when you make a video, it's a lot of waiting around for the tech guys to get the thing together, and you know, get everything set up. You know, so and they were trying to do. Well, they did. They did 4 videos in 6 hours.
Oh, wow. See, that's a lot of work there.
Yeah, well, that was Richie Castellano and his cousin Phil. They really just went above and beyond. You know, they'd already figured out everything. They storyboarded it out. They had a shot list. They had, you know, costumes. They had all these things. You know, it was like very tight. So I was very impressed.
And now, because of the reason why it didn't turn out to be that solo project you wanted, is that why you decided, okay, I want to go back and revisit this project and to do it the way I wanted to do it?
Sort of. That was kind of in the back of my mind. I thought if I ever think about this thing again, I would do it, you know, I would do it differently, you know, and I would approach it differently. I mean, part of the problem for me with the original record was that I'm always a guy that tries to make the music fit the lyrics and make the music and the lyrics fit the story, and the story is the most important part. And when I was making it originally, and I wasn't in Blue Oyster Cult, I was saying, okay, I'm going to use this as a springboard for my solo career, you know, and so it's got to be heavy, and I got to have a big band that, you know, we can play arenas and just, you know, make people go crazy, you know. And so it was sort of like that kind of motivation. This time, and eventually I realized, well, some of these songs don't sound right. It sounds like the music is just the music, and it doesn't have anything to do with the song. I'll give you an example. The song Imaginos, the title song of that record. It's sort of bombastic, and it just rolls along, and there's not really a lot of you don't get the feeling for the story. If you look at the lyrics and you know the story, you know that Imaginos is supposed to take place in the desert, and so a spaghetti western kind of a vibe would be good, you know. So I always thought it should be redone in a much more sparse, more like percussion oriented with a low guitar, you know, boom, boom, you know. So So I got to do that on this one. Or a song like Astronomy, which on the Imaginos re-recording of that song, it's kind of sounds like Edge of 17 or something. It's like this kind of driving beat and like a very dance-oriented thing. And Sandy's vision was not that at all for the song. Sandy's vision was much closer to the one that was on Secret Treaties, where it's a more fragile, sparse, just haunting kind of a thing. So I got to do that too. I kind of did it like the Blue Oyster Cult thing, except with acoustic instruments. That's the other thing, is that I was disappointed that Imaginos never got played live. The album they never played most of the songs. I think they only played I'm the One Who Won Me Of, which we'd already worked that up for Cultosaurus erectus and ended up not using it. But that one in the Presence, we played those two songs and BOC in practice, and actually recorded them too. So I wanted to make this new version enough of me playing the guitar, playing the essential thing, that I could just walk into a coffee house and play the whole record in order, on the guitar. So that was one of the things that I wanted to do, was to make it acoustically oriented and also just very anchored around my rhythm guitar playing, which I did.
Now, is that going to be the plan? Obviously, you can't do it right now, but when things open up again, is to take this out as a project and play the thing front to back?
Absolutely, yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to get it together to do a live stream sometime in November or December, where I play the whole record live, on YouTube or something. YouTube Live.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, I think I think the fans would love something like that. And besides Imaginos that you got coming out, what else have you been doing? What other projects you working on?
Oh, lots of things. So of course, last year, Blue Coupe, my band with Dennis Dunaway and my brother Joe, we put out 11 Even. So that, we never got to tour on that, and it was kind of good for me because I was able to do this project. If Blue Coupe had gone out on tour, then I'd still be working on it, and it would not be finished. I think I would have done it anyway, but it would have taken a lot longer. But so that's something that's going to be re-released in December. Another thing that's coming out in December is a record that I made with Blue Oyster Cult last year, not all of them together, all of them separately. So I did a track with Jules Rodino on drums. I did Danny Miranda played bass on about 4 songs. Richie Castellano plays and sings on one song that I wrote with him. Buck Dahmer plays guitar and sings on one track, and Eric Bloom does some vocals on 3 songs. So, and my brother sings a song, and Andy Chernoff sings another song, and so this is a great thing. It's a trilogy of albums, and this is the second one that we're doing, based around Michael Moorcock's trilogy, Dances at the End of Time. And, of course, Michael Moorcock is a longtime Blue Oyster Cult collaborator. We recorded 3 of his songs, Great Son Jester from Mirrors, Black Blade on Cultosaurus, and Veterans of the Psychic Wars on Fire, Lemon, and Origin. So, I know Mike for many, many years, a very well-respected sci-fi author. And so that's another thing. That's supposed to come out, I think, the beginning of December. I heard December 6th, but I don't think that's right. I don't know. They're sending me, I haven't even heard the final record, but they're sending me some copies. I just found they sent them today, so that's cool. And And the other thing is that I have been recording with the Dictators, the reunited Dictators. So we recorded 4 songs so far without Scott Kempner, unfortunately, because Scott was in California at the time. But he has just moved back to the East Coast. And so we're planning on going back into the studio with Scott this winter to do a full record with them. But the first single is going to come out. Well, I think the plan is for it to come out on October 27th. So that's the next thing that'll come out.
You got a lot going on. You're a busy guy.
Oh yeah. I know. This will be a four record year for me. With the Blue Oyster Cult record and the Imaginos and Dictators and Spirits Burning. So yeah, it's a very prolific year for me.
I'm talking to Albert Bouchard. He's a founding member of Blue Oyster Cult. Now, keeping track of all that is kind of difficult. So where can people keep track of you on the internet? Where can they find you with all this info?
Well, I have a website. It's albertbouchard.net because albertbouchard.com was already taken by a chef in Rhode Island who I actually went to his restaurant and met him, and he was like, I used to impress girls by telling them that I was your cousin. But, he's a little bit younger guy, but, pretty funny. But he has the albertbouchard.com, so I had to have albertbouchard.net. And what else? Facebook, it's, I don't know, I guess you just look for me, Albert Bouchard. I don't think there's any other Albert Bouchards on Facebook. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is, youtube.com/altbouch, ALTBOUCH.
Very, very cool. And before I let you go, I got to ask, I think when it comes to, I'm here in Rockford, Illinois, and one of the most epic, legendary concerts of all time that's ever happened in this town was at Rockford Speedway, and I hear about it over and over again from everybody, the Black and Blue Tour. The Black and Blue Tour, yeah. Yep,
the riot where Geezy got hit by a bottle and they walked off stage.
That's not a good thing.
Crazy.
But talk about that tour a little bit and what it was like for you guys. That year, from what I've been told, that was the tour of the year in 1980.
Well, I was always a fan of Black Sabbath, and they were connected to Blue Oyster Cult for many years, just because Columbia Records wanted some kind of hook, to promote us in the early days, and so they said it was America's answer to Black Sabbath. So to that end, we actually sort of emulated their sound on our first record. I think after that, we kind of found our own way a little bit better, but so I had already been big fans of Black Sabbath. I think I was the biggest fan of them and the band. And I especially liked Bill Ward's drumming, but I liked everything about them, how they, wove the blues into, and horror themes into one kind of amazing thing. So we had already played a few shows with Black Sabbath when Ozzy was in the band, but it was, I think, maybe just 2 shows. That was it. So this was going to be a whole tour, and not only that, this was years later when we'd had a hit, and Ronnie Dio had joined the band, and of course all of us were huge Ronnie Dio fans from when I was in high school. He was playing in the local big town, which is Watertown, and he had a band called Ronnie Dio and the Prophets, and so they were amazing. I thought, this is the guy, man. He sounded like Tom Jones, except he's playing the bass, and then he had Elf after that, which was the Electric Elves first, which was basically the Prophet guys, except with Feinstein on guitar. And then he had Elf, and that was a varying people playing with him, and then I guess he was in Rainbow after that. And so all through this, we would cross paths, and I just really admired him as a singer. I mean, he's one of the best singers ever, really. And but playing that tour was a little bit challenging for us because we had the same manager, Sandy Perlman, and Sandy decided that we should co-headline with them, where every other show, one or the other would open the show and the other would close. And so we noticed something right away. When they were opening, they would not come on stage when they were supposed to, and then they would play way over time so that we'd end up having to cut our set, which was not cool. And we did not repay them in kind, but it was this weird competition, resentment. I remember one day after the show, I was playing my acoustic guitar very softly in my room, and Tony Iommi knocked on the door and goes, "Can you cut it out? I'm here with a friend. It's distracting. Stop playing." So I was like, "Okay, Tony."
Sure. Yes, Mr. Iommi.
But it was a lot of weird things that happened. I'm not going to go into all the strange and petty things that occurred, but it was not the great thing that the fans saw. I mean, musically it was a great thing, but personally it was a little disappointing. So I thought it should have been if we'd opened every show, it probably would have been better off. Because then we would have had a better attitude from those guys.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you.
Albert Bouchard, founding member and drummer from Blue Oyster Cult. His latest project, Imaginos. Find out more on his website, and it's coming out in November, right?
Yeah.
Check it out. It's Rockford's home for classic.
Thank you, Terry.
No problem. It's Rockford's home for classic rock, 96.7 The Eagle.